Good day, everyone, and welcome to today's UFC conference. Just as a reminder, today's call is being recorded. At this time, I would like to turn the call over to your host for today, Mr. Dave Scholler. Please go ahead, sir.
Thanks, Sarah, and thanks, everyone, for joining today's UFC Rio conference call. UFC Rio takes place Saturday, January 14th from the HSBC Arena in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Today on the call, we are joined by UFC featherweight champion Jose Aldo, who will be translated today by Derek Lee, number one contender Chad Mendes, and the middleweight co-main event between Vitor Belfort and Anthony Rumble Johnson. Also on the call today is Fernanda Prates, who will be translating for our Portuguese-speaking today. So any members of our Portuguese-speaking press that need help with translation from English to Portuguese or vice versa, Fernanda is on the call today. Before we jump into questions, we do have an official confirmation for you today. April 14th, the UFC will hit Sweden for the first time at the Ericsson Arena in Stockholm. It's a 12,000-seat arena, and main event and card details will follow in the weeks to come. So UFC hits Sweden for the first time April 14th. With that being said, let's jump into UFC Rio. Sarah, if you would, open it up for questions.
Thank you. To the audience, if you have a question or comment today, please press star then 1 on your touch-tone phone. For those of you joining us today using a speakerphone, please make sure your mute button is turned off to allow your signal to reach our equipment. Once again, to the audience, please press star then 1 if you have a question or comment today. We'll pause for just a moment to assemble our roster. Please hang on the line. We'll go first to Ron Kruk of Inside MMA.
Morning, guys. Thanks for the call. Quick question for both Chad and for Anthony. Guys, can you talk about fighting your opponent in their home country of Brazil and then basically... Yeah. You want me to go first, Anthony?
Let's play it, Chad.
For me, this is a great experience. I mean, going to Brazil, it's the birthplace of MMA. And, just going over there and beating the champion in his own backyard, to me, there's no better way to prove that I'm the best 145-pound champion. So, overall, I'm feeling great. This camp has gone very, very smooth. The best, this is the best shape that I've ever been in, and I'm excited to get in there and showcase it.
Anthony?
For me, going into Rio is an honor. Like Chad said, this is where pretty much it all began, right there in Rio in Brazil. And, I don't mind coming in anybody's backyard and putting on a good show and fighting to the best of my ability, because that's what I'm going to do January 14th, no matter what.
And then a quick follow-up for Vitor and Jose. Guys, can you speak about what it means to you to fight in your home country of Brazil?
So for me it means just as fight anywhere. That's my job, and that's what I do, and do with excellence. And the best thing to do is to do what you know what you do, and everywhere. It doesn't matter where you go. It's just octagon is octagon. It's eight sides, the same size, and it's a competition, and we train hard. It's a big pleasure for us to fight in our country, to fight in our hometown. So it's a pleasure, just like fighting everywhere. So I'm very happy to be part of the past and the present and the future. So.
Ron, would you repeat the question for Derek and Jose?
Sure, Derek and Jose. Jose, can you speak about what it means to you to fight in your home country of Brazil?
Hello?
Derek, are you there?
Por essa oportunidade que o time tirou vai fazer a luta principal. Mas isso...
Derek, are you there?
It looks like we still have no response from Derek's line at this point.
I'm here.
Move on.
All right, Derek, did you hear what Jose had to say in response to that question?
Yes, I did. He said it means everything to him to be fighting Brazil. This is where everything started. It's where he got his start, and he's really happy to be coming back as a champion in the UFC. But really, he can't really focus on that. He's got to go back to training and do what he's always done.
Excellent. Thanks, Derek. And Ron, before you ask your next question, just so everybody is aware, you will hear a slight beep on Derek and Jose's line. That is just a connection to Rio, so have no fear. It's a natural beep, if you will. Ron, if you have any more questions, go ahead.
All good, Dave. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Next up, we'll go to Ariel Helwani from MMAfighting.com.
Thanks, Dave. My first question is for Anthony. A couple of days ago, Anthony, your manager, Glenn Robinson, tweeted a picture of you training, which has created a lot of buzz because you look to be in great shape and you did not look like a welterweight at all. So I'm wondering how much you weigh right now and how much weight will you expect to cut, let's say, in the week before the fight?
I weigh 215 right now. You know, I still feel great. The weight is going to come off, no problem. So I end up cutting my last little bit of weight, you know, the day before weigh-in. So, you know, this is easy. This is going to be a lot of fun for me. So that's why I feel so good, because I don't have to cut the weight that I used to cut. And you know, I'm more explosive. I'm more athletic. Everything has just come to where it needs to be right now. You know, I'm peaking at the right time.
And considering that you are feeling very good and you don't have to put your body through that struggle of making weight in the last 10 days or so, obviously this may be a question that you could better answer after the fight, but are you starting to think now that you'd like to fight for the rest of your career at middleweight?
You know, right now middleweight is where I am. You know, that's all I'm thinking about, and I really don't mind fighting middleweight because I get to eat more now. You know, so like I said, I feel 1,000 times better than what I did when I fought 170. So that's why I'm like so happy and just want to fight really bad.
So are you done as a welterweight?
So far.
All right. And I had a question for Chad Mendes. It's a two-parter. First off, what do you make of Jose training with Gray Maynard, who has a similar style and build to yours? And also, what do you make of him saying that you're receiving a title shot or you're fighting Jose Aldo a little too early in your career, that you're not ready to fight someone like him?
You know, first off, I don't care who he trains with. I mean, I train with some of the best guys in the world. I mean, I've been wrestling since I was 5 years old. I mean, it's what I've done my entire life. I haven't taken a year off, ever. So, I mean, wrestling, you know, I don't care who he works with. He can work with the best wrestler in the entire world for his camp. And his wrestling is not going to be anywhere near as mine, as good as mine. And I'm sure he understands that. And, you know, but Maynard's saying that he doesn't think that I'm ready for a title shot. I don't know where Maynard's saying anything about anyone. I mean, he's never trained with me. He doesn't know how good I am. So, I mean, I think Maynard is probably just saying that because he's training with Aldo. But other than that, I mean, I feel like I'm prepared. You know, my stand-up is going to be where it needs to be to get in there and fight with Jose, and I know my wrestling is going to be better. So I'm stoked for this fight.
Okay, and one last question, if I could, for Jose. By the time the main event happens on January 14th, it will be approximately 3:30 a.m. local time. And I'm wondering what he is doing. Obviously, this may benefit Chad because Sacramento will be 6 hours behind Brazil. But what will he be doing to sort of get on that clock? Because it's not normal for a fighter to fight in the main event at that hour.
Ariel, can you repeat that question one more time?
Sure. The question is for Jose. The main event will take place at approximately 3:30 a.m. Brazil time. And since that's not a normal time for a fighter to fight in the UFC, especially in the main event, what is he going to do to get on that clock, so to speak, to prepare his body to fight at 3:30 a.m.?
Júnior, como é que você se prepara para lutar numa luta às 3:30 da manhã no horário local aqui, quando o teu adversário vai estar no fuso horário de 6 horas atrás? Faz alguma diferença?
Não faz diferença nenhuma, né, cara? Eu acho que sempre quando a gente vai lutar, a gente procura treinar sempre no mesmo horário da luta, então
a luta for 3 horas, 2 horas, qualquer hora, eu vou estar preparado. O importante para mim foi o treinamento que eu fiz. E é nisso que eu acredito, é nisso que confio, né, cara? Então, o treinamento foi bem feito, a gente está já na reta final ali, chegar lá e tá. Acho que para mim, horário, tanto faz. Eu luto 1 hora da tarde, meia-noite, 4 da manhã, não interessa. Interessa eu estar bem treinado.
He said it really doesn't make a difference. You know, you're always going to be training at around the time that you're going to be fighting. So if you're fighting around noon or be at midnight or 3 o'clock in the morning, it really doesn't make a difference. It all comes down to being well trained and being prepared to step in there on fight night, and he's going to be doing that for sure. It really makes no difference if he's fighting during the day, at night, in the morning.
Thanks, guys.
Up next from Univision, we'll go to Eduardo Martel.
Hello, everyone. This question is for Vitor Belfort. Vitor, last time we saw you in Philadelphia, you said that you believe that the UFC and MMA in general will surpass popularity of soccer in Brazil. Now being in Rio, do you still believe that will happen?
Yeah, it will happen in a way that, if not now, sooner or later, UFC has everything that takes people to entertain with everything, you know, not just the sport itself, but what's behind, you know, the stories, the athletes, all the video game, everything. UFC has excellence in everything they saw. It's not just going to overcome soccer, but I believe, just as Dana was saying, it's going to overcome every sport in the world, worldwide. So in Brazil, the last fight that Junior Cigano fought with Cain Velasquez on TV, we overcome the rates of Brazil and Argentina in soccer. So I think we're proving. I think it's just now that everybody's cannot deny that. That's already happening right now. It's going to take time, but things already happen right now as we're talking, as we're speaking.
Okay, thank you. And one quick question to Chad Mendes. Chad, how excited are you to be fighting for the UFC title, and how are you planning to control your emotions the night of the fight? Because definitely it might be your biggest fight, the biggest fight for your career.
Oh, I think this definitely is the biggest fight and going to be the biggest night of my career. But you know, I'm super excited. I had like a surreal moment the other night on New Year's. I was in my living room watching Times Square, you know, watching the ball drop, and behind one of the guys performing on stage, there was a big poster of me and Jose in the background, you know, in Times Square, and it's just crazy to think that, you know, a little under 3.5 years ago, I was still in college, you know what I mean? And this trip into MMA, and it's been a very fast rise, and it's just been an awesome experience for me. But just sitting there and realizing that, it's kind of surreal, and you know, it's just really awesome for me to get in here. And you know, I knew that, you know, I would be good at the sport, but to be fighting as the main event and for the title, you know, it's 11 fights under my belt. You know, it's just awesome, man. I've just been living the dream. I'm out here in Sacramento, just, you know, getting to train with all my buddies every day, you know, getting to travel all over the world. And, you know, it's just something that I'm definitely soaking up. You know, I know that I only have a short window in my life to do this kind of stuff. And, you know, this is that time. And, you know, I realize that. So I'm taking it every day one at a time and just loving life.
Thank you, guys. Good luck on Rio.
And once again to the audience, please press star then 1 if you have a question or comment. We'll pause for just another moment. We'll go next to Igor Resende of ESPN Brazil.
Queria fazer uma pergunta para o Jose Aldo. O José, como que é a expectativa de estrear pelo Flamengo no UFC Rio?
Let's go ahead on. Derek, are you unmuted?
Yeah, I'm here.
Derek, could you translate what that question was for us?
The question was, how's Aldo expecting? How's it going to be first time coming out as sponsored by Flamengo, the soccer team, who's one of Jose's well-known love of his life, and he's now sponsored by them. Jonas, você ouviu a pergunta?
Ouvi.
Então fala aí.
Então é muito grande a gente já tinha namorado do Flamengo e estava esperando já isso acontecer, né? Graças a Deus aconteceu agora, mas é tranquilo, cara. Eu não estou pensando no Flamengo, não estou pensando em nada, estou pensando na luta que eu tenho que fazer, né? E depois como que foi, né? A gente agora estou só focado na luta, cara. Então foi bom fechar com o Flamengo, mas eu estou focado na luta.
He said he's very excited to come out wearing Flamengo jersey. You know, there have been talks for quite some time about this to happen, and, you know, everyone knows that he's a diehard fan of Flamengo, but he says he's really not thinking of Flamengo or anything like that right now. He's thinking of the fight. It's a great honor, but he's really got to focus on the fight.
José, e como que você vê essa ligação do MMA com o futebol no Brasil? É algo que tem para crescer? Como que você acha que vai ser?
And the follow-up is, how does Jose see the link between soccer and MMA and all these teams sponsoring athletes? Is that something natural? What does he think of it? Jonas?
Eu vejo com alguns olhos, né? Eu acho que o futebol deu para somar, o futebol tem o seu espaço, então os clubes têm muito a oferecer para nós, né? Os atletas, de forma que qualquer coisa, abrem um espaço no clube de terapia, tem todo um trabalho já no futebol, cultura, então eu acho que só tem que tomar, cara. Eu vejo por esse lado. Tem um lado de torcedor, né? Que o torcedor é muito fanático para um clube e às vezes o atleta fecha para o clube e o torcedor fica um pouco chateado com isso, mas eu não vejo assim desse jeito, né? É como se fosse todos os jogadores do Flamengo, do Vasco une para representar o Brasil. É assim que tem que ser vista a coisa, né? Eu acho que nós somos atletas e representamos o Brasil, não um clube de futebol. O clube é um time seu que vem nos ajudar na sua carreira.
Jose says he sees a link with good eyes. You know, the soccer teams in Brazil have a huge structure. He says, for one example, they got great physical therapy. They got great clubhouses and everything that can bring a lot to the MMA athletes. The only thing is, soccer fans are very fanatic, so sometimes if a guy's a fan of Jose Aldo and he's not a fan of Flamengo, he might not like that link too much. But in the end, Jose says it's like, soccer players from all over the world come together in the World Cup to represent their national team, and that's the way he looks at it.
Para terminar, só para o Vitor Belfort, se ele também vê com bons olhos essa parceria com o futebol e se ele espera um dia fechar com o Flamengo também.
A parceria foi uma coisa interessante, que hoje a parceria não é com o futebol, a parceria é com o clube. Eles vão estar dentro do UFC representando o nome dele, o Jose Aldo, né, no caso, o UFC. É óbvio que acho que todo flamenguista, todo botafoguense, vascaíno vai torcer por ele. É a chance de um vascaíno virar flamenguista no UFC. É a chance que as pessoas vão ter de entender que os clubes estão migrando para um esporte que, né, é representado por um atleta, por uma equipe, por um time, pelos valores de cada atleta. Então, dessa forma que eu penso.
Dave, you want me to translate that?
You're actually going to go ahead and have Fernando translate that. Thank you, Derek.
Yeah.
All right.
Actually, he asked how Vitor felt too about this partnership with soccer. If he saw it, he thought it was positive, and if he one day expects to close the deal with Flamengo too. And what Vitor answered is that the partnership is not with soccer itself. It's with the team they're going to be representing. It's with his name. Aldo's going to be representing his name in the UFC, and everybody will root for him. It's the chance. The UFC will be a chance for a Flamengo fan to become, a Vasco fan inside the UFC, and a chance for people to understand that they're migrating to a different sport where they represent different things. That's the way he feels about this. Up next from Canadian Press, we'll go to Neil Davidson.
Thank you. My question is for Chad. Chad, it's been a long time since anybody has beaten Jose, I think 5-6 years. obviously you go into every fight thinking that you can win, but have you seen anything, as we've seen more of Jose recently, have you seen cracks in his armor? The fifth round with Hominick proved to a lot of people that the champion was human. Have you seen things that give you confidence?
Yeah, I definitely have seen things that give me confidence. I mean, I don't think Jose has any holes or any cracks in his game. I think, if anything, he has some areas that aren't quite as strong as others, but I don't definitely see any holes. And I feel the same way about my game. I mean, I don't feel like I have any holes. I'm young in the sport, but I'm learning fast, and I feel great about every part of my game. But, yeah, definitely those last two fights are fights that I've watched a lot and have sat down and picked apart, and it's something that's helped us put together a great game plan for this fight. So, I've sat down with Uriah, and, we have good coaches. I don't know if you guys know Justin Buckles. He's one of my main game planners and coaches for this fight. And, we sat down and put together a great game plan, and I'm feeling confident coming into this fight that I'm going to be able to do it. So I'm excited.
And a quick follow-up, if I may. You talked about sort of pinching yourself over New Year's about where you are fighting for the title. Does that excitement ever turn into pressure, given the stakes that you're contesting for? Are you able to sort of turn that into a positive?
No, I think for me, I'm in the best spot possible. I mean, if anything, I think Jose has all the pressure on his shoulders. I mean, he's the one fighting in front of his home crowd. He has the belt. He's the one that has to deal with all the pressure. I'm the up and comer. I'm the underdog. I'm the one coming into this fight that no one, everyone's kind of overlooking. And I feel confident that, my skills, the things that I'm good at are going to be able to beat him. So I think, if anything, the pressure is all on his shoulders, and I'm feeling confident coming into this fight.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
We'll pause for just a moment.
Next up, we'll go to Stephen Morocco from MMAJunkie.com.
Hey, my question was kind of similar to Neil's, and it's for Chad. I guess my question was, where do you think fighters have gone wrong in their approach to fighting Jose?
I think a lot of fighters get in there and try and, stand in front of him too much. You got to keep the pressure on Jose. He's the type of fighter who will pick you apart. He's very explosive with his stand-up, and he has pinpoint accuracy. So I think guys just, need to get in there and get their hands on him more. And honestly, a lot of the guys that have fought him, I don't think any of the guys that have fought him have had the wrestling credentials or the wrestling abilities to be able to get a hold of Jose and hold him and get him down and hold him down. So, I think, like I said, my skills, the things that I'm good at, are going to be the key to beating a guy like Jose.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Up next from IG Brazil, we're going to Rodrigo Ferreira.
Hi, I have a question for Vitor Belfort. You have already 2 fights scheduled up to June with Johnson and Vanderlei Silva. That kind of postponed your eventual fight for the title with Anderson Silva, right? And I'd like to know, how do you feel about that? Vitor, você já tem 2 lutas aí marcadas pela frente, pelo menos até junho, e você sempre falou que queria disputar o título. Queria saber como você se sente vendo essa luta com o Anderson Silva mais longe.
I feel ready. I feel like I take one step at a time. I have Anthony Johnson on the 14, and that's what's on my mind right now. And even if I have something scheduled for next, I don't think about that right now. I'm going through the day right now. I'm going through the routine until the day of the cutting weight, day of the fight. I'm enjoying every moment. I'm enjoying every moment as possible. So that's how I see it.
Okay.
We'll go next to Leif Knudsen of Fox Minneapolis.
Yeah, this is Leif Knudsen. Vitor, I have a question for you. You've been involved in the UFC since, you were 19, back in 1997. Do you watch most events? Are you an avid watcher of the UFC?
Yeah, I watch a lot of UFC fights.
Sure. And what is your favorite fight aside from one you were involved in?
So many, man. It's hard to pick one, but so many I love. The last fight, Mendes and Cowboy Cerrone, so many fights that UFC is hard to pick one fight, but the last fight that I saw, Cowboy Cerrone and Nate Diaz, really interesting.
Great, sounds good. It. And for Rumble, you are now training at ATT, is that right?
No, I train at Imperial with the Black Zillion.
Oh, and are you planning on staying there? You're previously in San Jose with Kong Lee. Or do you plan on kind of traveling on the road as some guys do, or is that your home gym now?
No, this is my home. This is where I'm staying. I'm not going anywhere.
Excellent. And what's it like to go up against a legend who you saw fighting growing up, being a slugger like yourself? Is that intimidating at all?
No, it's not intimidating at all. It's actually motivating for me. It makes me even more hungry because that shows me that the UFC believes in me and giving me this opportunity to fight. So, because he's the phenom, he's phenomenal. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But when it comes down to fighting, that means nothing to me. I'm still going to do the best that I can do and do what I know how to do. That punch people, that hit people, that take people down, and win fights.
Absolutely. And if you were healthy enough, as he's been relatively blessed, would you want to fight as long as Vitor has?
Oh yeah. Of course, I want to fight as long as possible. If I can be fighting at the age that Randy, was fighting at, that would be a blessing and an honor.
It's going to be an honor to watch you two fight. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Christian Post. We'll go to Mark Hench. Your line is open. Please go ahead.
Yes, this is for Vitor. Vitor, you've spoken in the past about your Christian faith. I was curious if you felt that gave you any advantages going in against Anthony Johnson in Rio.
Talking about my faith, my advantage is to live what I preach every day. The competition, it's a competition, I believe everything you do, you sacrifice, you can achieve the glory. I don't see God the way people achieve God. I don't look for God for wins. I look for God in my daily life. I glorify Jesus in the good days and the bad days. So my work is just to honor, my principles, honor my opponent, be faithful to what I believe. So being a Christian, it's not when you compete. Being a Christian, when you live your life, your secret life. I think God is more interested in your secret life, your life, than your public life. So I'm a strong believer, man. I don't negotiate my principles with anyone. So I stand for it. I fight. I try to get better every day as a human being, an athlete. And the best way to preach is by living, by an example. So that's who I am, man. I worship Jesus every time.
Thank you. We'll go next to Damon Martin of MMAweekly.com.
First question is for Jose Aldo. It's been mentioned, of course, Jose, you brought in Gray Maynard to train with you for this camp. How much has he added on to your wrestling game, and how much of a benefit has it been working with him in this camp?
João, como é que foi trazer o Gray Maynard para você? Qual o benefício que ele te trouxe e como é que tem sido trabalhar com ele?
Pois é, né? Foi um prazer muito grande ter o Gray treinando com a gente. Eu acho que a gente estava treinando no wrestling, mas a gente precisava de um cara nato do wrestling para ver como é que ele quer se portar. Então, com a chegada do Gray foi ótimo. A gente pôde observar bastante coisas que a gente não tinha, né, aqui. Então, a chegada do Gray foi ótima, principalmente para mim, né, que eu vou lutar agora com o wrestling. Então, precisava disso, mas estar treinando com o Gray é ótimo, cara. Que ele é uma pessoa nota 10 e procura nos ajudar bastante, sempre conversa antes, depois do treino, fala tudo certinho, então, foi ótimo.
He said it was a great pleasure having Gray down here in Rio, and they have been training wrestling for some time, but they needed a well-versed guy who's been training wrestling his whole life to kind of clear up things, and he feels that Gray coming down in these last 2 weeks really gave him a lot of pointers and helped him a lot out for this fight where he is facing a wrestler. And Gray's a great guy. He talks, gives pointers before and after training, and has really helped everyone in the gym.
And kind of a turnaround question from earlier, Chad Mendes has actually never lost a round in his entire MMA, his time in the UFC. But does Jose see holes in his game? Has he seen those things been exposed, or does he feel like he's just got the right tools to expose him?
Ele falou que o Chad nunca perdeu nenhum round na carreira dele, no UFC pelo menos, mas você, vendo os filmes dele, você tem como achar algumas brechas no jogo dele ou isso também não importa?
Com certeza, né? Acho que ninguém é perfeito, todo mundo tem brecha, assim como eu tenho. Então, a gente assistiu os vídeos da luta junto com ele também, então estudamos bastante e tiramos muitas coisas dali. Então, é isso, cara, mas isso é fora a parte, a gente observa, faz tudo lá na hora que a gente tem que tentar fazer daquilo que a gente treinou, né? Então, acho que ninguém é perfeito, todo mundo tem erros. Então, eu treinei em cima disso, vamos ver lá na luta se nosso treinamento estava certo.
Yeah, he says nobody's perfect. Everyone's got holes in their games, including himself. And he was able to get a lot of pointers from watching a lot of the tapes. But really, it comes down to being well trained and going out there and seeing if the training was well worth it and if what he saw was really going to be able to impose his game. But he feels that he was able to find a few things, and he's been working on that, and we'll have to see on the 14th.
And one question for Chad. Chad, obviously, your teammate and your coach, your good friend Uriah Faber, fought Jose not too long ago. I mean, was he able to offer a lot of extra in your camp, at least in advice or in training, as far as his personal fight with Jose?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Uriah, going into that fight wasn't, we knew that Jose had leg kicks, but it wasn't something that was, something that was a red flag. So going into that fight, the game plan was a little off, but yeah, sitting down with Uriah and talking to him about, his experience in there with Jose, we figured out, strengths and weaknesses where he's a little bit stronger, where he's a little bit more weak, kind of implemented it into my game plan and gone over situations and, really set up something that's going to be great for the 14th. So, me and Uriah and also Justin Buckles, we've all sat down and put together some good stuff.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah.
And again, to the audience, it is star then one for questions. Again, please make sure your mute button is turned off to allow your signal to reach our equipment. Up next, we'll go to Ariel Helwani of MMAfighting.com.
Thank you. Just a few more questions. One to ask Vitor, you were obviously at UFC 134. You worked at the event. You did a lot of media work. You obviously didn't fight on the card. Can you compare the buzz locally in Rio for this card as opposed to the one in August?
Sorry about that, Ariel. Vitor, do we still have you on the line?
I'm here. The fight is still established.
I'm here.
Did you hear that question, Vitor?
What's the question? Again.
Vitor, the question was, you were at UFC 134, you didn't fight, but you were in Rio. Can you compare the buzz locally for this card as opposed to the UFC's debut in Rio in August?
You know what I mean? Like, I try to stay away. I don't focus on how big. For me, every UFC is big. Every UFC is great. Every UFC in Brazil is going to be a lot of support. It doesn't matter who's fighting. Brazilian, they're big support of UFC. It's going to be amazing time. This is gonna be history. This is going to be an history of the sport, and I'm so glad to be part of that. Still surfing that wave, still, when I started, this sport wasn't recognizable as a sport. Now we are mainstream. Now we are athletes. Now we have athletes like, Anthony Johnson, Chad Mendes, guys that amazing athletes like Jose Aldo. All these guys, for me, I'm so glad to be fighting on the same card, with this type of opponents, people that understand the mixed martial arts, people have good background, good morals, and we're there to compete, and the best man of the night will win, and that's what's about it. We're gonna make history, and I'm so happy just for that opportunity as well. So, it's a win-win situation for myself.
And also for you, Vitor, Dana White recently said that if Chael Sonnen would beat Mark Munoz, that he would look to make that fight against Anderson Silva at an outdoor stadium in Brazil. And from talking to people in Brazil in August and recently, a lot of people are concerned that because of what he has said about Brazil, that it might be a security issue for him, that it might not be too safe.
Man, everybody. I have to deal with my issues, buddy. I don't talk about people. I don't judge people. I think everyone has your own harbors. You know what I mean? I cannot predict anything. If I could predict something, I would rather predict the lottery number and win. So about people, everyone has to deal with their own issues. If you talk too much, you gotta handle your mouth. So you gotta pay the consequence, and it's not mine. That's not my style, buddy.
Fair enough, thank you. For Jose Aldo, before your last fight against Kenny Florian, there was some talk that you were perhaps considering a move up to 155. Is that still something that you're thinking about?
Falando você querer subir para a categoria de cima, é uma coisa que você ainda considera, ainda está pensando nisso?
Pois é, eu considero há muito tempo, né, cara, mas isso não depende só de mim, depende muito do Dedé também, do Edson, de todo mundo. Eu acho que eles sabem cuidar muito bem da minha carreira, eles estão de fora, né? Isso é muito mais uma linha de querer subir do que ele, né? Então o Dedé sabe, né, que eu subir, como tem cara muito novo ainda, então tem muito a aprender ainda, e no antes chegar a hora de subir, a Dedé vai chegar, vai falar, aí eu vou subir.
Yeah, he said that's something that he's considered a lot, but really the right time is going to come. And he really trusts his coach, Andre Pedernera, and his managers, who are looking at it from a different point of view of knowing when to make that move, if ever. But it's something that he's considered, but he trusts their judgment, and he feels as a young guy he's got a lot to learn, so he's got to trust the people around him.
Okay, and just another one for Anthony, if I could. Anthony, sometimes when we see guys who fought at one weight for a long time, then move up perhaps for a special fight or just his first fight at a new weight class, they do things differently, and we've seen that picture. You look great, but how have you stopped yourself from not taking liberties with your weight so that you are either not in good shape, or B, not packing on too much weight and you're forced to cut a lot of weight again? How have you tried to stop yourself and have that same mentality that you do when you're fighting as a 170-pounder?
Ariel, can you repeat that question? I believe it was for Rumble, right?
It was. Are you still there?
Anthony, are you still on the line?
It looks like Anthony just disconnected.
Ariel, we will have to save that question for another time.
Can I use my voucher for one more? I know I've taken up a lot of time.
Sure.
All right. For Chad Mendes, what do you think of Jose Aldo's takedown defense? He's shown pretty good takedown defense against Mike Brown and Uriah, and even in some of his more recent fights. So I was wondering, as a wrestler, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jose's takedown defense is great, especially up against the cage. But the only difference with guys that you just named, Uriah and Mike Brown, is neither of those guys really have an explosive shot. A lot of those guys, especially Uriah, a lot of his takedowns are like snap singles and stuff. But Brown just kind of bullies you up against the cage and then works the takedown from there. And, I think Jose is really, really good at defending both of those. But, my style of shot is more of an explosive, kind of just blast you off your feet takedown. And a lot of the times those are harder to defend. So, we won't know until we get in there January 14th. But, I believe that what I have and what I can do is going to work.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And it appears we have no time for any further questions. I would like to turn the call back over to Mr. Dave Scholler for closing remarks.
Thanks, Sarah, and thanks to everybody who joined today's call. A couple of closing notes, but before we get there, thanks to Jose Aldo, Derek Lee, Chad Mendes, Vitor Belfort, Anthony Johnson, and Fernando Prates who joined us on today's call in the speaking capacity. Don't forget UFC Rio, Saturday, January 14th from the HSBC Arena in Rio. Before we go, Strikeforce returns here in 2012. They'll have a press conference tomorrow at 1 p.m. at the Hard Rock Hotel in Las Vegas. Strikeforce Rockhold versus Jardine airs this Saturday on Showtime at 10 p.m. on both coasts and is included in Showtime's free preview weekend broadcast. Don't forget also for Strikeforce, big news, the first time ever, Strikeforce prelims will air on Showtime Extreme beginning at 8 p.m. on both coasts. That will do it for today's call. Thanks again to everybody who joined. We'll see you this weekend in Las Vegas for Strikeforce. And then as we go off to Rio, we'll see you for UFC Rio, Aldo versus Mendes on January 14th. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you. And again, that does conclude today's conference. We thank you all for joining us.